Welcome everyone to the first ever Scales and Sustainability Conference hosted by the Reptile Map. My name is Darwin and I'll be your host and MC for today. It's an absolute honor to be before all of you today to share my love for reptiles and my commitment to their protection. In our society, reptiles are often misunderstood or overlooked, even though they are some of the most fascinating and essential creatures on our planet. Today, we're here not just to learn about them, but to advocate for their role in maintaining the delicate balance of our ecosystem. Why are reptiles so important? Well, these animals have been around for hundreds of millions of years. They've survived mass extinctions and adapted to extraordinary environmental changes. Sea turtles and lizards, snakes and crocodiles, reptiles represent resilience. But their continued survival is far from guaranteed. As we gather here today, reptile populations around the world are declining at alarming rates due to habitat loss, climate change, pollution, and disease. Reptiles play a crucial role in ecosystems as both predators and prey. They regulate our food chains and maintain the health of our habitats. When we lose reptiles, we're not just losing species or individual species, but we're disrupting entire ecosystems and causing a cascading effect that harms biodiversity and ultimately human well-being. That's why today's discussions are so important. But beyond the ecological importance of reptiles, these creatures also hold cultural and symbolic significance across the globe. Ancient Egyptians revered snakes as symbols of royalty and protection. Indigenous communities honor reptiles as vital parts of their natural world. Today, we build on that respect to bring scientific insight to amplify their importance and secure the future of reptiles. At this conference, we will focus on sustainability and biodiversity, with the aim of understanding how reptiles contribute to the overall health of our planet and how we as scientists, conservationists, and advocates can work together to protect them. We will explore how reptiles are indicators in environmental health. We will explore the role of reptiles in controlling pest populations and the emerging threats reptiles face in a rapidly changing world. From research on infectious diseases to habitat preservation, in today's discussion, we will tackle some of the most pressing challenges to reptile survival and propose actionable solutions. Throughout today, I encourage you all to keep in mind that reptiles are not just relics of the past, but they are vital to our future. By studying and conserving these remarkable creatures, we can learn so much about adaptation, resilience, and sustainability. So whether you're here as a researcher, as a student, or an environmental advocate, or simply someone passionate about the wildlife, your presence today signifies the shared responsibility we all hold in ensuring that reptiles and the ecosystems they support thrive for generations to come. Here at the Reptile Map, our mission is to create a global network of citizen scientists, students, and researchers dedicated to the conservation of reptiles. Our team is composed of students from all around the world, and we're able to come together to gather and share critical insights on reptile species, to monitor their habitats, and to address the unique environmental challenges they face in different regions. Each team member represents a state or province and plays a critical role in collecting information, identifying trends, and collaborating on conservation strategies. We're aiming to document and map reptile species distribution, to identify environmental challenges, and to promote sustainable conservation strategies. This conference is an opportunity for us to unite in our mission, to exchange knowledge, and to empower individuals to take meaningful steps towards protecting these remarkable species and their habitats for future generations. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Elizabeth Gutierrez as our first speaker for today. Elizabeth has over 2 decades of experience in education and has a solid academic background in biology. Her career includes time at the National Zoo of Guatemala, where she engaged with the visiting public and schools, handling reptiles, birds of prey, and mammals to deliver detailed species information and impactful conservation education. At the National University, she oversaw laboratory practices for courses in botany, plant physiology, and vegetation analysis, with a strong focus on taxonomy, ecosystems, and conservation. Currently, she's leading a new initiative focused on addressing information gaps related to snake species in Guatemala. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome Elizabeth. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Darwin. That was a nice introduction. And let's begin. So today I will be talking about reptiles as heroes, or the silent heroes in protecting biodiversity and sustaining ecosystems. As we know, reptiles are fascinating creatures, and usually they are misunderstood. We don't know much about them, or even some people fear them. They play such crucial roles in ecosystems that are essential for biodiversity and sustainability of life on our planet. And we're going to dive into the incredible ways these species contribute to the health of the environment, often in ways we don't immediately see or appreciate. A lot of the examples I will be giving to you, like these in the list right here, are species that are found in the area that I live in, which is Guatemala. Of course, they expand a little bit more. Some are distributed from the south of Mexico and throughout Central America. And this particular species, for example, they're known for their impressive color changing ability. These small lizards are crucial for controlling insect populations, and as so, they play an essential role in maintaining biodiversity and supporting the sustainability of ecosystems. To start off, I want to show this quote where reptiles are vital to ecosystems, supporting biodiversity and sustainable environments everywhere. And I chose this particular quote because I think it matches so well the theme of what I'm presenting today. Reptiles are not just inhabitants of ecosystems, but they also play active roles in sustaining the balance necessary for life. And here I have another example. We have Celoporus daniosnemis. This is commonly known as a stripped plateau lizard. Their distribution is usually in high altitude regions of Central America. And a little fun fact about this is this lizard's striking coloration aids in camouflage among rocks. They serve as predator and prey, and they help maintain an ecological balance. And whether they're controlling pest populations or serving as indicators of environmental health, these are indispensable to ecosystems and in their habitats. So just a little introduction to reptiles you guys already probably know, or if not, here's something new. So reptiles have a long evolutionary history. They date back around 320 million years. They're survivors and having adapted to a variety of environments. You can find them from the hottest deserts to the most humid forests. And they're one of the most diverse groups of vertebrae, with about 10,000 species worldwide. And just in Guatemala alone, there's about 240 reptile species, many of which are endemic. If you guys are new to that term, that means they're found nowhere else but in the area, in a particular area. And here is a nice example, one of our most famous examples, Heloderma charlesbourgerti. They are found only in a semi-arid area, which is called Motagua Valley, and they are critically endangered species and one of the few venomous reptiles. They have a very restricted range, and there's about estimated 200 individuals left, and they're so essential, not just to the ecosystems, but they also contribute to the medical field. Their venom is currently being studied because they help with treatment of diabetes. So incredibly important to work with these species and find ways to help them in conservation. Reptiles have unique adaptations. They are extraordinary in diverse habitats, and these adaptations are key roles in maintaining biodiversity and ecosystem stability. For example, reptiles are master thermoregulators, using the environment to control their body temperature efficiently, which in turn affects how they interact with their surroundings. Their specialized camouflage not only protects them from predators, but also allows them to hunt effectively. They also have reproductive strategies such as laying eggs in varied and often hidden locations, and that ensures survival in unpredictable environments. Lastly, their dietary versatility, being able to thrive on minimal energy and eat a wide range of prey, makes reptiles incredibly efficient with food webs. And so all these unique traits are not just fascinating from a biological standpoint, but they underscore how vital reptiles are in sustaining ecosystems by stabilizing food webs, balancing prey populations, and even influencing vegetation through seed dispersal. Here's another example. This is Scaphiodontophes annulatus, or commonly known as the fake coral snake. They're not venomous, and this is an arboreal snake, and it's known for its striking colors and nocturnal hunting behavior. This shows an adaptation. Not only does it help to thrive, so they're not hunted because they mimic a coral snake, but they have ripple effects in ecosystems around them. Another key term related to our topic is as well keystone species, which are organisms that have a large effect on their environment relative to their abundance. So the loss of these species can lead to a significant change in ecosystem structure or function, making their conservation essential, meaning that these species have such an effect that if they were to be eliminated from their ecosystem, that ripple effect would actually affect the whole ecosystem. And here I have an example, Basiliscus vittatus. This is also commonly known as Bascus. And a little fun fact, they are also commonly known as the Jesus Christ lizard. And that is because they have an ability to run in water, and they're a critical predator of insects and small vertebrae. They help control pest populations, which in turn supports agricultural productivity and maintains ecological balance. The absence of this species, for example, would lead to significant ecosystem shifts, making conservation essential. I have other examples here. For example, here at the top, we have Crocodilus morelletti. This is a top predator in the area. Their distribution is Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala. This species is a little bit less aggressive compared to other crocodilians, but they actually play a crucial role in aquatic ecosystems. They, for example, they prey on fish, and because of that, they control populations, and that also prevents overgrazing of aquatic plants, for example. Here on the right, we have Lechenis venusta venusta that function as both a predator and prey. They help maintain water quality and are big participants in nutrient cycling. And finally, here at the bottom, we have Tenosaurus similis, which is a herbivore. They also distribute from Mexico to Central America. And this iguana can run up to speeds of 21 miles per hour. And being herbivores, they aid with plant growth and dispersing seeds. Now, with all these adaptations and being keystone species, how do they fit in? What is their role? So basically, we can put them in three main areas. First, they assist with ecological health, balance, and food web roles. So they serve as both predator and prey, and they influence in population dynamic of other species along with their own. They're also biodiversity indicators. So they show how much health there is in a certain ecosystem, how much balance there is, which is essential to biodiversity. And finally, they do have a cultural significance. For example, here in Guatemala, a lot of reptiles are integral to local cultures and traditions, which is a good thing, which we can connect with the need of conservation and appreciation. Once we see also that significance and we use it to our advantage to speak to the communities, we can heighten our perspective of these species, which at the same time helps protect them. Here in the image, I have an example of a Bothrops asper, or also called yellowbeard. It's one of the most venomous snakes in the region. They're actually considered the most dangerous. So they play a huge role in regulating small mammal populations, but at the same time, they're highly endangered because people do fear these species, right? So they see them, and the first thought they have usually is, okay, we need to kill it. So with this last point, I wanted to link it up. Once we see the appreciation of what they do, for example, it helps in their appreciation and their conservation. Another example, I have an aunt. She works for a big company that has a plant in a very rural part of the country where There's a big forested area that actually surrounds the plant. And it's very common that in the work area, sometimes they'll see these species, especially like bothrops. And through my influence and through information, now when they see these species, they don't kill them anymore. Instead, they'll try to contact someone to remove it and place it back in an area where they are protected and they won't harm people or they won't be harmed. Specifically going into each of the points as an ecological health balance and food web roles that they work as predators, so they control population of pests like rodents, insects, or other smaller animals. They also have a role as prey, that is to species like birds of prey, mammals, and even larger reptiles. As we saw in Tenosauria, they have pollination assistance or seed dispersal assistance. Finally, they're indicators of environmental health. That means changes in their population can indicate the health of a certain ecosystem. And I'm mentioning this again a little bit because I have more examples here. Here at the top left, we have Crotalus simus, which is a top predator. It's a type of rattlesnake. Their distribution is in Central America, and it's known for its potent venom, and it plays a significant role in controlling mostly rodent populations. Here on the right, top right, we have iguana, or commonly known as the green iguana. They help with seed dispersion. Their distribution is mostly Central and South America, and despite their fierce look, as we mentioned, they're herbivores, so they help with pollination and seed dispersal by eating fruits. Here at the bottom, we have Anolis nebulosus, along with this other guy on the right, Gonatodes arbocularis. The Anolis, for example, can change color to camouflage, while Gonatodes has this particular coloration of orange. And both of them help with insect populations and serve as prey for larger species, maintaining a balance within the food webs. Now, expanding upon the concept of reptiles being indicators of environmental health, we can see it in four main areas. First, they're sensitive bioindicators. If there is a environmental change, that means the habitat shifts and the ecosystem health also shifts. They're also biodiversity signals. So the presence or absence of a certain reptile species is a direct reflection of biodiversity levels within the ecosystem. They also allow habitat quality assessment, which means monitoring a certain reptile population can provide insight into the habitat quality and the potential environmental threats. And finally, they're also conservation indicators. So a healthy reptile population can signify effective conservation practices and ecosystem resilience. And here is another example, right? We have Tenosauria oaxacana. This species actually, its distribution is mainly Oaxaca, Mexico. It's one of the smallest and rarest species of genus of the Tenosauria, and its population decline indicates habitat disturbance. So if a Tenosauria rapidly decline in the habitats that are disturbed, examples would be like deforestation or climate change. This makes them one of the earliest species to signal environmental degradation. So they're a perfect example of the presence of a reptile or a lack of thereof is a powerful warning of sign or a sign of broader environmental issues. I also have more examples here. Here on the top left, we have Abronia fimbriata, which is an arboreal lizard. Their distribution is Guatemala and southern Mexico. They have prehensile tails, and its population is highly dependent on cloud for its habitats. So they're a really sensitive bioindicator, and they signal environmental stress. Its population usually declines when habitats are degraded. Here on the right, we have Symphymus maye, and they are usually found in the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala. They're relatively a newly discovered species with a little known about its behavior, but its presence actually reflects high biodiversity in its ecosystem. and it's present in ecosystem signals that the environment is actually thriving. And then here at the bottom, we have the Gessis, also commonly known as the Bushmaster. Their distribution is around Central America, South America. It's a pit viper, and it's one of the longest venomous snakes in the world. It's highly dependent on intact forest ecosystems, and they're also a conservation indicator of recovery. So the success of conservation efforts, habitat restoration is directly related to how healthy their population is. And finally, talking about threats to reptiles just briefly, because I think they're going to expand on it a little bit more later on. Mostly the key efforts to conservation usually is habitat protection, species-specific conservation, and community involvement. This last one is very integral with those efforts of habitat protection, because if the community is not involved, their kind is an unbalance. So that's related directly to education and awareness. So like reptiles face many threats. And one key example I mentioned, actually one of the first reptiles I mentioned in this presentation was Eloderma charlesbourgetti, which is facing rapid habitat loss, and its conservation efforts are vital. There is some successful projects like the in the Mutawa Valley for this particular species, but its conservation is not just about legislation, it also is about education, like I mentioned, local communities. When the people understand the benefits of protecting reptiles, they're more likely to support conservation efforts. That's the main key. And together through community action, education, and stronger laws, we can safeguard these vital species and ensure their survival. So with this, thank you so much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you so much, Elizabeth. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and thank you so much for your powerful presentation and talk. I believe your
Thank you.
expertise and passion have resonated with all of us today, and we've truly learned something about the importance of reptiles in sustaining our ecosystems. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that.
Thank you to you, and it was a pleasure. Have a good day.